So in this video today, I'm going to show you my tile over tile technique. The reason I'm doing this one is because it's part of my bathroom remodel series. There's some interesting information here I'm going to share and different products. The old series I did had a product that used to be available on Amazon, but now it is no longer available on Amazon. So I'm doing this with products I got from the local Home Depot, just so that you can be empowered to do this yourself, okay? You'll know what to get and where to get it. Now, step number one, of course, is Ziploc bag, because there's little set screws that are like literally about as big as a drop of water. You're not gonna wanna lose it, okay? This stuff is all little sealed. You're gonna need Allen keys. Take out the set screws. Don't lose these. It'll take weeks to order that part, okay? It's just a compression fitting in this case, but it's all the gunk from the hard water. Oh, throw it in a pail of CLR overnight or something. I got myself a wrench with some attitude today. Here we go. Okay, twist. Okay. Oh, great. Unthreaded from inside the wall. Brilliant. That just made my life more difficult. The reason I want to know what this pipe is, this is an NPT fitting, same thread on both sides. And I've got a drop here in the wall. So because I'm adding tile, I want to buy this in the next size bigger, which is a ½ an inch bigger. So I want to set this aside, make sure on my trip to the store, I buy the right fitting. Okay. And then we have this thing here. Now, way inside, there's a Phillips screw. Oh, it's just falling apart, eh? Don't be surprised if it falls apart. This is all plastic. Most of the products on the market today are not made of titanium. Okay, you're gonna give me a hard time, are you? Yeah, problem solved. Okay, now we'll throw what needs to get thrown out. And my screw here broke, so I need to grind that back. And then we can get onto the business of applying our multi-surface bonding primer. Let me just show you the product here. Right? MBP, multi-surface bonding primer. That's the stuff. That's the goop. And I'm just going to use a little mini roller. I'm going to cover all these surfaces. I'm looking for about 90 to 95% coverage. And I'll probably have to throw a tarp on the ground. I don't want to get this on my pan. It's filthy, but it can be cleaned. This stuff, multi-surface bonding primer, does not come off with a bit of a fight. So let's get all this out of here. I should probably pull that out of the wall as well. So before I bought the whole home filtration system, I bought these little mini filters. It's kind of like a Brita filter for your shower head. And it worked great. Had to change it every couple months, but you know, it helped out a lot. Water was too hard for my wife to use for her hair, so that's why I started using that. So if you need a quick, easy solution, that's one way you can go about it. Now this is steel, so you know it's going to be obedient and do its job. There we go. Boom. Oh, okay. We're good. Okay. Step one, because no one even knows this product exists, and there's only 2 buckets on the shelf at my Home Depot, my guess is it's been there for a while. And best before date, maybe? Looks like we're gonna be all right. Huh. Okay. Oh! And to all of our American friends out there, if you're wondering, the box says it was made in Rochester, Michigan. So if it's selling at Home Depot in Canada and it's made in the United States, I'm going to say there's a real likely chance that they're selling this down there too. Okay. Oh, and it's blue. How lovely. Hopefully it doesn't stink. The reason I like using the Aqua Defense is because it doesn't smell. The Red Guard has a waterproofing system. It stinks horrible, but it doesn't do good for priming. Oh, that's got a bit of an odor. Ooh, yeah, Daddy, okay. Confined space, use a fan if you got one. Or just enjoy the ride. Woo. Okay, wowzer. Now this is just a paint job, right? Man, if I knew it was gonna be this stinky, I would have got a bigger roller. So this is just a primer, which means it's just like painting. And if we get it on, it creates a really sticky surface for other things to bond to. This is not about coverage or thickness or crack isolation. You really got no rules except get it wet. There we go. Okay. Now, when you're tiling in wet areas, the rule, they want you to have 95% coverage on your mud. So if you don't have 95% of the tile covered in this, you can't possibly have 95% coverage with your mud, because the mud might be all over the place, but if it's not bonded to this bond or primer, you don't have a bond at all. Okay, this is one of these times where you're the best contractor on the job, because this is your house and you're the one that cares the most about it, and you're going to be the most meticulous to make sure that you get good bonding adhesion. Okay, great time to be a little bit weird about it and just make sure everything is perfect. Why not? You only get to do this once. Now, if you like the idea that you can actually do this tile over tile, and you don't know if you have a waterproofing system, we have another video. I will link to it in the video description because it has the other steps that you're going to need. This video is going to be a quick synopsis, and through the magic of YouTube, let's say this is done and let's go install the tile right now. It's toxic, but it's survivable. We're going to let this dry overnight. You don't need to be in a rush, okay? The coolest thing about this primer is you do not have to prep the surface, right? It's just make sure it's not filthy dirty and covered in mud. But as long as it's the stone or your tile that's there, you can just go right over top. Okay, I need some fresh air. In just a few seconds, we'll be installing tile the next day. Love YouTube. Okay, so telling you about my problems in the shower isn't gonna necessarily help you. So here's like things you wanna consider in order. One, these inside corners, are they both level? Okay, if they're opening out or opening in, you're gonna wanna mark the widest dimension and keep that in consideration so that it's easier to cut tile than to fill voids, okay? I know it's more work, but it looks better and performs better long term. So try to consider using a laser level to identify your starting points for your tile based on the widest and the longest. In this situation here, everything is pretty decent with the walls, but the floor is out of whack, right? And when I say out of whack, I mean almost an inch from that corner to this corner. It's an old farmhouse, so the pan went on the existing floor. So what I've got to do is I've got to consider this as my starting point at the bottom. I'm going to draw a laser line based on that point where the tile goes. I'm going to cut everything else to make that first laser line. And once I've got that installed, I'm going to go horizontal. Then I can build on something that's level and relatively square. That's probably my best course of action. It's also not that difficult because I only have to cut two tiles, one in this wall and one in this wall. And then we'll deal with how we're going to finish the niche once we get here. So unfortunately, because of my tile selection, I'm going to do what I don't like to do. I'm going to have to go horizontal. I'm going to alternate from pattern to solid and do the stripes, okay? And I'm going to start at the bottom with the horizontal lines. And I'm going to take a few inches off that first tile, lay it in level, and then that'll give me the extra amount of space I need to be able to finish tight to the ceiling. When I get to that last row of tile, I'll be able to actually cut it in and fill the gap right to the ceiling, and it's going to look amazing. I'll probably only take off about maybe 1 inch, and I can make that adjustment at the end. Wasn't the look I was going for, but maybe in hindsight it's a good thing. Anyway, I should have made this a lot easier on myself and bought smaller tile. So I've taken all of my math into consideration. I've got tile extending past the shower pan to the floor. If I need to cut a piece in there to fill, I will. I'm gonna have to take a little bit off the bottom and cut in a small piece to go around the top. So, since I have the flexibility going like a third of a tile off and then have lots of space, now my major consideration is right here, these two lines. This represents roughly where my grout line is from a horizontal tile. It's about an inch or so lower, so that's fine. But up here, this joint right here, where my tile will sit under here and it has an edging. So I've got to get my measurement to this point. 11 3/4, 5 times is 1.25 inches. It leaves me about a 1/2 inch too high. So I'm going to take off my first tile back here, the inch gap that I had, plus the 1/2 inch for here to get my joint right. Talk about precision. So what I'm going to do is, instead of taking 1.5 inches, I'm going to take 2 inches. And here's why. If this tile extends lower than here, that's fine. I can add a piece of cement board, build it out, and then put tile on. It's not a problem. I'd rather build out the top down to meet my grout line than run the risk of being too high and having a big chunk of grout here. Okay? So I'm going to take 2 inches off the back wall. We'll get started and we'll just wrap this sucker up. Okay? So once I get the first tile installed, I'm going to drop in the laser level, and then I'm going to measure off the laser level to the shower pan, cut my stone custom to meet with that laser level line, and then the rest of this will be smooth sailing. All right, well, while I go cut this, you can take a look at the pattern. We did a rough layout on the floor here, so you get an idea of what this project looks like finished. And this is the best way to do it. For most people, we're visual, we need to see the layout. Just find a space and check it out before you move forward. Make sure you're gonna be happy with what you're gonna see at the end. Remember, know the end from the beginning every single time. We're using an angle grinder. No guard protection because I like to see what I'm doing. I don't know what my angle is on this if I got some big piece of metal here, so I'm wearing safety glasses. Bottom line, get a good porcelain quality blade. Okay, don't buy just any tile or ceramic blade. It won't be good enough for rectified porcelain. You got to spend some money here. These are about 40 to 50 bucks. All right, if you're not spending good money, you're not getting good blade. So you get what you pay for. Don't cheap out. This is not the time to drive yourself crazy with a piece of tool that won't do the job. So I'm taking 2 inches off. All I did was measure off 2 inches, set this up as a guideline, all right? And when I cut this, instead of going straight down and risking chipping it, I just put it on a 5-degree angle, okay? If the back of the top stone got ground out a little bit, it isn't gonna make a difference. Now I'm done with that, I can get out of the way. Just finish cutting through. I'll cut through on both ends first, and then just finish the middle a few runs. What I got here is I'm going to do a score cut for all my horizontals. There are a ton of different tool options out there. If you're a fan of the channel, you've seen me use, I have a small little tile cutter, and that's great for small tile and backsplash. Larger stone and more expensive stone, it's nice to rely on something a little heavier gauge. So I went out and I picked up this Ruby. It's been a long time since I've owned a score tool this big because I usually use a wet saw. But because it's 4 feet long, I'm not comfortable using that with my wet saw because it has a platform with a raised edge. And so the whole time you're cutting, it's just vibrating between 2 points, and I didn't want to risk it. So I picked this up to do some score cutting with it. I want to give it a try. Like I said, I'm trying to do everything in this video with stuff you can get from Home Depot. The tools to the materials, it's all there. The only thing I didn't get at the hardware store was the tile. I just can't find a better tile store in Ottawa that I like to shop at than Eurotile, so shout out to you guys. Great stone. Nobody sponsored anything. I bought all this myself, so it's just my choice, right? My 34 inches, here we go. And like any tile score machine, it has to, here we go. Oh, she just needs to be lubricated a little bit here. It's in the box too long. Okay, we're gonna just set the little wheel. And that's a really nice scratch. That is a much better scratch than the tool that I use, okay, to be honest with you. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna come back here a little bit, and this functions differently. That puts the pedal down, and now I can apply my pressure. Well, I'm gonna set the blade a little bit different. There we go. How happy with that? Not. Broke my bloody corner. Nice. All that work, eh? Broke the corner. The good news is I'm doing the back wall first, and I'm gonna have tile covering both corners. So even though it's got a chip, it will be covered by the other side. It's maddening that no matter how much money you spend on good tools, you still get results like this. Anyway, let's go get this in. Tools that I got from the Home Depot. This is a QEP trowel. It's 1/4 by 3/8. So 1/4 wide, 3/8 deep, 1/4 wide. Those are the three numbers related to on this side. Perfect for wall tile in a nice flush environment. Larger format tile, if you have any movement at all on your wall, you're going to want to go 1/2 by 1/2 so you can build out the stone. But I don't have to build out the stone. The only thing I got to worry about is getting cement all over the place. So here's my tiling setup, okay guys? You're going to want a pail with a sponge. You want to keep yourself as clean as possible, your tools as clean as possible, your work environment as clean as possible. I am using a tarp on the shower pan for protection. However, I'm calling up a glazer, so I probably don't need this anyway. But just because I know people like to see what the process is to protect a shower, I'm using a margin trowel to get the extra cement off the bottom. All right, I don't want my margin trowel laying around covered in cement. All right, I've got my wedges and I've got my clips. I'll show you that system in a second. But right now, I'm gonna need 2 wedges, one for each corner of the shower, to set my first stone. And this is the one that I cut down. And the last thing I need to do is just apply a little bit of the thin set to the back of the stone. Okay, this is the side that I cut. I'll put that one down. I want to maintain a bit of a gap here. When we're finished, this gap is not going to be grouted. It'll be siliconed. We'll show you that later on in the video because we're going to do the complete installation of the shower. This is not just the tile. This is going to be the fixtures and everything else, okay? So it'll be complete installation. So if you're wondering why the video is so long, it's because everything you need to do this project is in this one video. Okay? Now, I'm going to cheat to this side a little bit because of the chip. Last thing I'm going to do here, because once this stone is perfect, I'm able to build on top of it because I've got structural support, okay? So I want to bring my laser level in. Drop it down somewhere reasonable here. Drop a horizontal line. And then grab my measuring tape. And I'm going to measure from my tile to the line on both sides and see if I'm level and make any adjustments necessary. That's 16 7/8. That's 16 1/4. Unbelievable, isn't it? Well, 16 and almost a half, sorry. Wow. So, this side needs a little bit of an adjustment. A little bit of an adjustment, eh? Holy cow. $16 1/2, 16 1/4. Now, I am going to actually just drop that corner and not use this whole spacer just to see if I got room. There we go. Now, I don't want direct contact, but this spacer has a really thin tip, so I'm going to just get just that little thin tip underneath the stone. It's not going to make a great big difference. And then on the second row, if I need to make an adjustment, now I don't have direct contact with the pan. They can move freely, and the silicone will be the joint. That's what you're looking for, okay? Wow, it is hot working in a small space like this, Max. Take the margin trowel, okay? Clean that little bit of mud off. These are the lash clip system. Get the flat ones. They have curved ones. Those are designed if you're putting 2 stones on a wall that are different thicknesses so that it can curve to bring the front flush. If you're using 2 stones of different thicknesses, I'm just going to say don't. It's a lot of extra work. Never had it work out on a job site before. Now you see that? People always ask me, how is it that when I take the clip out, it breaks off and I'm left with this little white plastic stem? Because your edge is full of cement. If you take a margin trowel, $10 solves all your problems. And on a 45-degree angle, you just clean that area there. Then you slide this in behind. Now the area is clean. Okay? That's it. I know, great big trade secret there, folks, but that's the whole idea. If you work clean and you don't have cement buildup in between your joints, you will never have a problem breaking those tabs off. Yep, I know. The things you learn on YouTube, eh? So now, because there's a pattern, I want to make sure that I'm putting the cut side on the same side of the shower every time. Okay, now it's resting on these plastics. Here's why. I want to line up the detail so it looks perfect. Okay. Now, like I said before, because I'm on a pretty flat surface, this makes my job relatively easy. You know, I don't have to work too hard to collapse the ridges or anything. Everyone's going to want to comment, oh, you should pull a tile off and take a look. Fine, I'll do that the next tile. Here's the tool, comes with the system. All right, and this is designed for compression. Really works this simple. And squeeze. Yep. If you can do this, you can get perfect tile. No need to spend thousands of dollars on a tradesman. All right, there you go. What are we at? $300 in tools, and you're now a professional tradesman. Doesn't that feel good? Okay, let's just keep going. One more tile. This time I'll put it on and take it off and make a mess just to prove that we got good adhesion. Now I'm gonna stand up. Oh, whew. Oh, welcome to the Homo sapien group. Oh, ah. Let's do this one. That's clean. Oh. Now, people might want to know how many clips to use. There is no actual rule, okay? Here's the rule. As many as you need to get a good look, right? There's no too many, too little. If you buy quality rectified porcelain, it's incredibly straight. Look at that. It's straight. Dead as an arrow. Brilliant. If you buy lower quality porcelain or a ceramic, in a lot of cases, a longer stone, they all have a really bad bevel to it. So you need a lot of clips to help pull all that together because they will actually squeeze together to make flush. And a lot of these things have got limitations on the design because of how poorly they're manufactured. And if you're going to stagger the joints, you can only stagger up to a certain number of inches. Make sure you check the specs on the stone you want to work with. Now, according to the industry standard, when it comes to tile professionals, you want 95% coverage in a wet area. In new house construction, I think the standard is probably around 75. And you can decide what your standard is. But for best results, go with as much adhesion as you can. Okay, now, I didn't do anything special here. I just set it in, right? Let's take a look. Bad adhesion, or is it? See how there's lines on both sides? That's actually really pretty decent. Now, to get better adhesion, you want to collapse the ridges more. You want to slide it back and forth, okay? And it doesn't really collapse anything as much as it squishes it around. There we go. Now, we want to use these again. Flat side on the back, the teeth part on the front, so they actually can grab. All right. Like I said, here's professional tile technique. $30 tool, a couple pieces of plastic. You too can be a tile pro. There we go. Now these come in different thicknesses. This is actually 1/16. Okay, that's what I was wanting, so that's good. All right, there we are. Now, the way you finish the rest of your tile job is simple. We're gonna drop a laser line that we can measure and measure the left and the right side of each tile on the sides, cut them accordingly, set them in, again, use the wedges to make it all perfect, and then just build the rest of the wall. Nice and easy. Okay, so this is the piece I'm gonna install now, but I'm gonna use the offcut to measure. All right, that's just too big of a stone, and it's too delicate. Even when you have a rectified porcelain, the edge is square cut. If you even touch it wrong, it'll chip the glaze. So, I'm gonna use this. Now, I'm just gonna go like this, Because you can use a measuring tape, but when you're dealing with the 16ths in this world, you really want to just get up close and personal. Okay, now that's a good spot for me to cut. This is on a 1° angle, so I know the back is going to be higher. So I'm going to cut there, knowing that I'm also putting a tile here, and that's going to cover the gap, the difference. This is how we're going to do it. So instead of cutting the angle, it's going to cut based on the back of the stone at the higher height, and then when the other stone goes in, it'll all be covered up. Now I can translate that information on my stone. Mark it. Here we go. To this point to here. Again, it's 34 inches. And I'm going to go downstairs and use the grinder to make that inside corner cut. When you choose to work like this, you'll find that it's a lot easier to do all of these inside corner cuts and then cover everything with something straight, okay? There we go. And if you're wondering, this is a glazed porcelain. This is a permanent marker, okay? Removal system, voila. Don't be worried about marking up too much. That's only if it's glazed. If it's semi-glazed, okay, then you might run into trouble. And if it's anything other than glazed, you'll run into trouble. You'll have to use a pencil in those situations. But when you're dealing with glazed, you can use a marker. All right, let's see if I know what the hell I'm doing here. Good God, y'all. What is it good for absolutely nothing? Wow. That's amazing. This is awesome. But here's what we're gonna do. If you want to learn about cutting tiles, little holes like this, and to be honest with you, there's a grinder you can use a wet saw, you can use drill bits. There's a lot of different tools in the market. We did a video showing all of the cutting techniques for wall tile, floor tile, all the different tools, okay? So we're gonna put that link at the end of this video. You can go and check it out. You can skip through and find the information that you need, and you can mark it like for a resource for working down the road. Okay, and just so you know, this remodel of the shower, it's part of a whole series of bathroom remodeling that we're doing here in my master bath at the farmhouse. We're doing new floors, we're doing the wall tile, we're doing a new vanity. There's a whole lot of going on here, so make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit the bell for notifications. You don't want to miss this series. And we'll have links in the video description below. If we have other videos coming out in this series before this one, not sure which way they're going to come out yet, but just in case, if this is the first, make sure you hit that bell and you don't want to miss this series. We're actually taking this really old, ugly farmhouse ensuite and turning it in a very palatial kind of environment for the resale of this home. It's the last part of this house. It's all been decorated and done over. And this nasty bathroom has got to be brought up to the same quality level as the rest of the house. So that's the point of what we're doing here. Now I'm at a point where I'm just going to finish this wall and then do another wall and then do another wall. I don't have a whole lot more to teach you until we get to this point of the niche. So I think what I'm going to do is we'll just throw it on time lapse. You can watch this and then we'll come back when it's time to do the niche. All right, cheers. Okay, so welcome to day 2 of the tile install. Now, the weather has turned bad and it's raining, so I can't do any cutting with my grinder outside. So we're just gonna wait till tomorrow to finish cutting all the stone. But right now I'm gonna show you is how we're going to resize the niche. Because the secret to having a really good looking project is not having slivers on all the sides, right? Now, this is my back wall, and I'm going to have this grout line to contend with. This is my difference, okay? From the existing to here, this is my difference. So what I'm going to do is show you a technique, because what I already have a waterproof shower. I'm going to be installing tile over tile without a waterproofing system this time because I don't need it. There's already waterproofing behind it, okay? If you're not sure, then add a waterproofing layer, by all means. You can coat a waterproof membrane and paint it over top of this multi-surface bonding primer just fine, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to add purdy board to the underside. I'm going to screw it in place and glue it in place, all right? I'm not going to worry about waterproofing it because it's a waterproof material. It doesn't degrade when in contact with water, so I don't really care. So what I'm going to do is I have to turn on my laser level and try not to go blind again. Here we go. Yeah, that's what I got to get to. Now here we go. So I've got my laser line at the edge of my tile. My goal is to install this tile, just like this, the same position on the wall, okay? In order to do that, I have to have installed the two on the bottom perfectly level as well. This is why you've got to have a laser level tool when you're doing work like this. You just can't afford to fool around with this. If you're out 1/8 of an inch, you're done. It's going to look like garbage because that 1/8 of an inch translates into a really wide grout line on one side and a skinny grout line on the other side. So I am sitting exactly 35 3/16. Okay, measure to the 16th in this situation. 35 3/16. If you start with a laser level, everything you do will be perfect every time, okay? Now I know that the line that I'm building from will be consistent as the back wall. I'm using the same clips, everything will be fine. So when I get here, this tile is going to be on this line. So I want to build down this part of the ceiling until I'm at a height where I can install a tile on that surface and then put the edging on and be in a perfect position, okay? So all we do is just take a measurement here real quick. I'm gonna go 33, and then 4, should be consistent, perfect. We're gonna go 32, because that's how wide the board is. Yeah, and I'm not gonna be too concerned about that. Now, when you're working with Curdy board, every one of these squares is a 1/2 inch, okay? So when I'm cutting this, I'm just gonna count down, I need 4 inch. 1/2 is 1, 1/2 is 2, 1/2 is 3, 1/2 is 4. There's my mark. Okay, now cutting horizontally is difficult. It's actually easier to cut vertical. Now that I got my mark, see, because I can see where my blade's going. If I'm going horizontal, it's a little more difficult, my arm's in the way. And you can just cut right on that line. And the way you do this is look a couple inches ahead. And as long as you're staring ahead of where the blade's going, your brain does the math. Communicates with your hand and it'll pull the knife where it needs to go. And then you don't need a straight edge. And you can do this in a small space. That's one. How many of these am I gonna need? Well, I've already measured. The cement plus the tile is 1/2 inch. Okay, so if I go one more layer, I need 3/4. So I'm gonna go 3 layers. And I'm gonna be a little shy. And that's okay, and I'll tell you why. When we do the second part of this niche and we build this out, I'm gonna demonstrate how to set that tile in position. We're just gonna use a thicker trowel and put like a 1/2 inch groove on it, and then we can press it into place, okay? And it'll collapse the ridges until it sits in the perfect location. We'll show you that in a minute. Let's finish cutting these. For everybody who doesn't know, my Olfa knife, this is a new black blade. Their claim to fame is that they're apparently stronger. They last longer, they stay sharp. It's a hardened steel or coating or whatever it is. I'm giving it a try. I'm not a big fan of spending money on something that's more expensive than what I'm using, but I'm gonna give this a review and we'll see if I like it. I generally never use them because they were so much more expensive. But if I like it, I'll let you know in another video. To assemble this, I'm actually having to be creative. No, and I tell people all the time, don't turn your house into a science experiment. But I think there is room, a little bit of wiggle room there, to use your head. Don't be afraid to use your brains. And I'll tell you right now, construction adhesive, this is not going to get me 90% coverage. And all the tile people out there are gonna be like, hold on, wait a minute. You know, the coverage rule is not anything to do with waterproofing or anything else. It's got simply to do with impact. And is the tile supported? Now, I'm just gonna run this back and forth here a little bit. Okay, put all 3 layers on. And then I'm gonna connect it with some exterior grade screws so they won't ever rust. Even if a little bit of water does get in behind this, which I seriously doubt. Once you're waterproofed, everything else in the shower is just designed to be water diversion. just to help minimize your risk. Here we go. Okay. And we're just going to use these screws to set this in place so that until the adhesive is completely cured, there's no risk of this falling out. Yeah, and I know Schluter always says you should use one of their washers. I'm not buying a $30 washer kit to install 6 ounces of foam. Remember, there's a lot of different ways to do it, right? You can comment down below if you think this is crazy, or if you think it's just sheer brilliant. Anyway, now that that's done, that's that problem solved. The tile here is going to be cut, okay? According to the niche, cutoff is going to go recess and become the back section. Same thing with the next tile. This cutoff, whatever's left, becomes this tile. So now we're ready to roll. Okay, and so real quick before we go any further, we did a video series where we built a custom niche, and I go through all the steps and stages necessary to have it perfect so your niche is right on your grout lines. We'll put that link in the video description, and we'll just call it a niche video. Bottom line, if you're building something from scratch, you've got to follow the product's building practices because you are building a waterproofing system, okay? What I'm doing here is just doing a build out on an existing waterproofed system, all right? So there's a different approach. So don't jump down my throat if you think, oh, this guy is a hack. No, I'm just being creative because sometimes you need a creative solution to solve a problem. It's the mother of invention, right? And so this, in my experience, has longevity and is really well built. Anyway, let's have that discussion in the comment section. If you need to learn more, don't think that this is how I think everything should be built. This is how I think you can modify an existing waterproof structure, okay? The only other problem we had with this tile over tile business, let me get this turned off and out of the way, is right out here. How do you finish this, right? I'm going to show you that trick right now. Okay, so in our original tile over tile video, we showed a solution where we actually used a grinder, we cut back the original stone and then grabbed a piece of Schluter trim, like this metal, that was 1 inch thick. And we slid it in and then we just packed out the space with cement and placed the tile flush, right? And that works, and you can check out that video. We'll put that link in here as well. In this case, because I'm on an outside corner, I have an easier solution. I'm basically going to take a piece of drywall and install it, laminate it over top of this. And at the edge, I'm gonna bring it out to this point, okay? And I'm gonna put a metal J-trim on that drywall. So I'm gonna go cut the drywall on the J-trim, bring it up here, and I'll assemble it for you and show you how that works and what the advantages of doing that and how to prep it so that when I'm finished, I can be resting right on top of that corner. I'll have a perfect joint. All right, that's why they call it J-trim, okay? So now we know the back behind is the thick part and what you see up front is the thin part. Now on drywall, if you cut near the edge, it's tapered. It just sits right in there, like nothing, okay? It's really simple. Not the best situation though, because there's a possibility for movement and it'll crack that line. So what we do is we start over here like this and we force it and we snap it in, okay? And that's easy. And you can set the thickness if you need to, okay? And then it sits flush on the back, flush on the front. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take this bad boy off now. Boy, it is easier to put on than get it off. I'm gonna put on the 8-foot piece, we'll stick it in place, and we'll show you the steps you need to take to finish this corner. Now, the most important point on this piece is at the ceiling. We wanna make sure we're nice and flush here, so we don't have to use a lot of caulking. Now this is not something you're going to see in a lot of residential applications, but this J-trim is like a drywaller's best friend in commercial situations. So many applications for this. All right, let's get this bad boy installed. The goal here is to go flush on the corner, and I'm going to use some exterior rated screws again because I don't have any 2-inch drywall screws around today. Okay, now because this side is tapered It actually means it's coming along and then it goes in. So when I put this corner bead on, it's gonna make for a really lousy corner, okay? Because it's like not enough of a rise here to fill. So what I'm gonna do, so I'm just gonna pinch the corner. Take it from 90 to about 80, 85, okay? And then I'll push it into place. And listen, if you're new to drywall and you're not too familiar with all the tips and tricks, we got a couple of great videos with all of my tips and tricks and hacks and cheats. All right, you can check that out in the video description. We'll put a link, we'll put a card up here too. I mean, if you have the ability to see cards, that's easy. You can start that one. You can just open up that link, pause the video, and go get back to it in a minute. Now, in this situation, we're using this crimper tool. Yeah, it's very common in commercial drywall that they use 2 layers for fire ratings, okay? So there's nowhere to attach these corner beads to the wood. So what they use is they use this trick, okay? They just line this up, get a good bit of compression on there where I know that I've got metal to metal and there's nothing but gap. So from here to here is all gonna get filled with compound, okay? I'm just gonna take this. These are about 20, 25 bucks. They come with a rubber mallet. Just line it up and give it a smack. And it makes sharp teeth and bites right into the wall. And that is enough until you get your compound on there and dry it in. There we go. Pretty happy with that. And now we're just gonna get some compound on here. Two coats of that, the wall's finished again. Perfect. Now we've got something to come and finish on. I'm excited about that. The only other thing you want to do here is this. Yep, you guessed it. This metal, it works a lot better when you're painting if it's primed. And to prime a smooth, shiny surface like this, a flat oil works amazing. So just use a little bit of Kills, okay? Get that pigment on there. And the goal here is so that when we go to paint, we are gonna have a perfect finish. I'm gonna let that set up and dry, and then I'll finish the mud. And then the next step here is to get out the cutting tools and get all of this tile installed. We'll get that on video next. All right, next step, guys, you want to take your faceplate for your plumbing. This is the finish. Remember, and you've got your gasket here, all right? So you want to just line this up and then identify what your maximum size hole for that tile is going to be, right? Now, obviously you want it smaller than that because we also have a gasket. So, wow, at least 3/8, closer to a half if you can. And you're gonna see right here, the other one was cut more square. It's difficult to get a good seal, right? So we wanna make sure that we have lots of room. I've also got screws here and here that are on Allen keys, and that's like a shutoff valve for the valve in the wall. So we can come across here, all right? So now that we have that concept of the interior that we want to have so that the gasket's engaged with the tile, we're going to lift this into place. And this is where having these clips is really awesome because I've got something to set the tile on and I'm not risking chipping the glaze. Okay, so now I can literally see, I want to make a mark on my tile here, just eyeballing next to that shutoff valve. I'm going to get this as tight as I can. Okay, and then, okay, so now I want to measure up to this line here. So if I go at 8 inches at the bottom, that's above my gasket line. I like that. So I'm going to transfer that information on here. There, that's my lowest point, okay? And because I don't want to cut around here, I'm going to cut across and then on an angle. We're going to go like a 5 side. That's how we're going to cut that hole. That way, we're going to make sure that our gasket is continuously up against that tile, and we're going to get a great seal, all right? Now, if You want to learn how to cut tile with a grinder? That's not going to be in this video. That's what we're going to use here as a grinder. It's going to be handheld cut. We have a video where we went through all the different cutting tools and techniques, and you can take a look at that link in the video description right now. If you need to learn how to cut tile, or if you get cards, you can click the card right now and go to that video. Get that one saved, and then we can come back to that when you're ready. Hey. Okay. And one more thing. I've got this new hole saw tool. It's not in that cutting video, so we're going to do that in this video. I picked it up because it looks like a really good DIY tool. It might only be for 1 or 2 uses. I'm not sure about the quality of this blade, but we're going to drill that hole over here in this video and up top as well, and we're going to show you how this functions and I'll give you my review on it. Okay, now we're ready to go here. Now if you like, you can take your faceplate and you can double check. It's a no-brainer. I mean, look at all the room I got here. It's just crazy. I'm gonna get rid of this now. Next step is gonna be to do the cut for the niche. So, first thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna identify, I wanna cut right here, nice and flush. So I'm just gonna measure up to the edge. I'm gonna cut this opening out of the next tile. And I'm gonna use the cutoff and set it on the back wall. Same thing here, whatever this cutout is, the recess goes on the back wall. And then I'm going to take this tile for the bottom ledge. I'm going to overhang it, and then I'm going to use the plastic edging to create a nice little line here, okay? So always do the face to the dimension of the hole, and then you can build out all 4 sides in the back afterwards. And then use your plastic edging. This one's a little bit tricky, eh? When you're measuring this situation like this, what you want to do is you want to just, like the X, okay? Put that on the tile. When you're measuring, go from that point, get your measurement, 21, 24 and a half. Find that spot on the tile and then draw your line. Because we don't have the shutoff valves, I can cut this a little bit tighter. 2 3/4. And we'll throw that on the grinder. The same piece of tile, we're cutting this ledge off, right? So we want to measure from the spacer. We're gonna go 8 1/2. Nice to be level, 8 1/2. So I'm gonna go 8 1/2. Now I want to measure from the inside edge down to the tile. So we're going to throw a level on here so we translate a good line. Mark the top of the tile. That's my measurement. And I'm going to cheat just a little bit. And I'm going to make this just a little wider to guarantee. Remember, because we're doing the face first and then we're capping it, even if I have a little extra space here behind this tile, I can fill that with thin set. It's still going to look perfect. So don't be afraid to give yourself a little bit of breathing room. Thing, measure from that corner. We'll call it 13 3/4. So this is garbage. Whew, here we go. Down to the grinder. Ah. Sweet dude, thank you. I'll just use the spacer here to mark this off. So although it's an offcut, it's a perfect offcut. That goes back there, right? I just had them cut a couple of 4s. 4 takes me just shy. I add the plastic and it'll go just over and it'll be marvelous. Now, and in case you didn't notice, I did all my measuring to cut this tile on the wrong tile because we've got a recurring pattern. So while I was down at the saw, I had to redraw that and cut it again. One of those days. Sometimes, you know, when there's too much on your mind, it's just really difficult to do detailed work. That's what happens, you know. Go away for a couple of days, you clear your mind, and it gets started up all over again as soon as you wake up the next day. All right, here we go. Step 1 for the niche. Get your cuts, get your offcuts, right? We're gonna start with the back wall. That's what this piece is, back wall. And the offcut of this, again, back wall. Then I've got a couple of long pieces of 4-inch cut, and we should be okay. After this, the system is basically you want to get the ceiling part installed first, and that can be a little bit tricky. The reason we need the ceiling first, take a look at this. Imagine if this is installed, okay, and then left overnight, and all cured. Then the next day, you're literally setting your next tile on top of this, and it's already carrying the weight. It's really gonna help a lot. A niche is gonna take you a large format tile 2 days. There's no way 2 ways around it. You can't just build it all at once and walk away, all right? Not with this kind of weight on the stone, not unless you're using ultralight cement, and I'm not. So this is the way it works today. 2-day build. You don't want to start changing the way that we're applying everything. Just because it's a small piece, you still want to maintain the same system. If I don't back butter this tile, it won't fit with the next one. And the next one's big enough that it needs to be back buttered no matter what. Now what I want to do is just use these spacers. Get the grout line perfect. Yeah, it's on the money. Okay. Now we've got this sorted out. I can put my bottom ledge on with the slope, and I can let that dry and set tonight. And then tomorrow I can put the side and the ceiling on. Okay. I can also continue just building the wall if I do this differently. I can put the ceiling on and the next wall piece, because I can always build a brace to go from this structure here up to the tile. All right. And the best brace that we use is curdy board. If you don't have curdy board, you've got to get a piece of lumber, like a 2x4 or 1x4, and you put your tile across and you just put your lumber here until this is set, right? And then you can also build the next day underneath that with the next piece, again with lumber, and then you can finish the side the next day after that. So it could be a 3-day process for this, just because you're carrying so much weight, all right? Now because we have curdy board, we're just gonna take the next couple pieces and we can structure that in as we go. So it's gonna work out really well for us. Yeah, I think I want to get my sill on today, okay? And then use the curdy board from the sill to carry the ceiling, okay? And then I can leave that in place. And then the next day, the ceiling will be dry, the base will be dry. Because it's not carrying a lot of weight, it's not going to cause too much compression to mess this up. And I can use these little wedges to keep my gaps for grouting. And then the next day, I can come along and put the next big tile on, right? Because I'm using this wedge, I can't do the base till tomorrow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a curdy board, and I'm going to put the ceiling piece in with the plastic trim mold, okay? And this next tile. And I'm going to build all that piece as one unit with curdy board support to build all that, all right? Because I'm using the plastic edging, okay? I want the plastic edging to come all the way over to the tile and then all the way to the tile, even though there's going to be a grout line, okay? So I'm going to take the actual measurement, which is 33 and like 3/8. I'm going to cut the stone 33 1/4. So I have a grout line on each side, all right? But I'm going to cut the plastic 33 3/8. That made any sense? We'll see as we go. Okay, so that was 33 1/4 on the stone. I almost wish I had a walkie-talkie with somebody working the wet saw today. So the idea here, the premise, is that my ceiling gets installed right here, right? That's where the plastic edging goes. You want your plastic edging the same height as the existing tile. So that means I'm going to have a pretty good thick amount of mud there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from the base to this existing ceiling piece here, which is going to be too long, and I'm going to put 2 wedges like this, set my tile in, and then I will straighten them up to hold it in place. And I'm going to set the next tile, and that curdy board will make nice and wide so that I have enough compression that I can use that to carry the load of the tile as well. This is going to be interesting. Here's the best part. I just go like this, and I'm going to be at this height at best under full compression. Because I'm working upside down, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to back butter the ceiling and then put the trowel marks on the tile itself. Okay? Or I'm just going to have a mess. And I'm doing a pretty thick back butter because I know I'm going to end up with a pretty thick bit of tile here. Hey! Okay, that's going to work. All right, lots of cement here. Now it's probably going to get messy. I'm going to just trowel and rake. Because I don't want to wipe it off. I want to leave the excess on there. If I take too much of this off, I won't be able to add it on later. What's the price for perfection? Get it in. It's not enough cement. Now you want to use the finished factory edge here because you can't mess around and make a perfect job with your fingers on a cut edge or it'll just slice you wide open, right? All right, now that I've cleaned up my mess, remember the original sill here is on a slope. When I'm doing this, I'm setting this up as perfectly as I can. And the only way to do that is to then add a wedge on the front side to create extra compression here as well, from this point to this point. So I want to make sure I want extra compression right here. We're going to add the plastic Schluter trim. And just for the record, this is not Schluter trim, this is the Proba trim from Home Depot. Okay, the benefit of using this system is that I can still maneuver and adjust. So now I'm going to put the next stone on, and then we'll maneuver and adjust accordingly. And then we'll put more wedges in to hold everything nice and tight. This is where the haters come in, right? Look at the size of that gap. Oh my God. Taking the cement, just gonna snow plow it over top of this trim so we got something in here making positive contact, okay? All right. Get down onto the left side first, carries the weight. Now I gotta worry about my depth here. Right about now, half you're out there screaming, what about the gap behind the tile? You don't have 90% adhesion in a wet area. No, I don't. And I'm not worried about it because I work in the real world. Now I know, if you search the internet, there's a YouTube video out there done by a company that sells the cement. And they use a glass tile and they show you how to trowel and how to get the air escape. And then, you know, if you don't have contact, then they smash the daylights out of the tile with a hammer to demonstrate their point of how easy tile breaks when it doesn't have good adhesion behind it. So my best advice for this scenario is don't bring a hammer into the shower and everything's going to be just fine. All right, guarantee my gap. Okay. Now, the best thing to do when you've got this kind of situation going on is when you're happy with what you got, stop and walk away. If you got more cement, go ahead and finish up the other side. Feel free to do the niche side first and then the rest of the shower if you have to, just so you can keep going. But now you can see this tile goes right in. My patterns are lined up. I got the right stone, right? Everything is good. My grout lines are perfect. My trim edge is perfect. I can even come back tomorrow with one of these little yellow things and I can use it to clean out the grout. Wow, that's gonna be awesome. All right, let's just move on and assume it's tomorrow and we'll continue building. Welcome back to my shower. Here we are. It's the next day, everything is dry. Don't even have to think twice, right? Get this out of here. Even these little spacers. We want to put this side on here. I'm gonna need another piece here. And the idea here is, do you do the bottom first or the side? This is a big debate. If I do the bottom first, right, then I have water deflection. Any water that goes in is forced out. Except over here, it's gonna be up against this tile. So if I do this side first and then I put this ledge in, right, then I'm going to have a grout line on both sides. Is it the end of the world? No. As long as you've got a slope, because you're going to use a silicone on all of these surfaces that are interconnecting. Okay? So I'm not going to worry about it. What I am going to do is I'm going to do the ledge first on an angle, because I can install it nice and tight over here and not rely on a grout joint and just a clear silicone bead. And then over here, I'm going to cut the other tile to sit on top of it on an angle, okay? And hopefully get the same look. But if I don't, at least it won't be ugly, and I don't have to have a grout joint on each side. Personal preference. For me, the waterproofing is in behind the tile. The rest of this is kind of like, it diverts 90% of the water. So if 10% of the water gets in behind, you better have a waterproofing system. But even without the tile, you could shower in here just with a waterproofing system. We'll do that in a video one of these days. I'll just make a waterproof shower with no tile. You can use it for a whole year while you save your money for a really nice stone. Wouldn't make a difference. All right, just use this side cutter to mark the edge. Here we go. Now what I'm going to use is a piece of 1x4. I'm going to put up against the saw, hold this together, get a nice clean cut. Here we go. Now that is flipping perfect. So all of this flexibility here, right? It's exactly what we're looking for. So with the edging tight to the stone, which is not what I want here. Really hard to get a good seal from the stone to the edging when it's tight, okay? Let me show you something here. The plastic is higher than the stone. That's gonna hold water, okay? So I wanna install the stone more like this, with a bit of a grout line, okay? So I can fill the grout line and the stone is higher than the plastic edge. We're gonna just fill this thing up with cement and then we'll tool it back to where we want it. Makes sense? This is where a margin trowel comes in real handy, okay? So, we're gonna just go like this. It really is like icing a cake, right? Okay. It's a lot easier to do this when you put way more on than you need, all right? So here's my slope. See that? 1 degree. And I'm just filling this as a substrate to the tile install now, okay? I'm not actually setting the tile on this. I am going to back butter my tile, right? So I'll put the ridges, collapsible ridges on the back of the tile and use this as my tile backer. Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with that now. This might get a little messy. That's why you want to have your pail around, eh? With your sponge. First thing I want to do is set this in place. We'll set it out nice and wide so we can push it into position afterwards. All right. Now, these collapsible ridges should hold this tile higher than the plastic once I drop it in. It should. Well, this is how we're going to check it out. All right. Don't let anybody move. Nice and easy now. Because the job now is to move everything into position without any downward force. We'll only add the downward force once we're happy with where everything is. So I like my plastic in a little bit more here. I don't want a shadow underneath. So my tile I want to put back a little bit. Remember, I'm still looking for a grout line here. I want the plastic lower than the tile. So I can drop it here a little bit. Okay. Take a bunch of these. These wedges, the very tip is so super thin. It's just enough to create a gap. And I'm going to just use it to clean all the extra cement out. Okay, just the tip. And use that here to create that gap for my grout line. I don't want that sticking out though, so I want the tile to be moved back. Now, here I am, and my tile is dropped a little bit too low. So I'm going to look up from underneath. There's a gap in that Schluter trim. And I'm going to push my tile up nice and high here. We're going to reset. There we go. I don't want that too high. Okay. Remember, I want to have the water come over without obstruction. Okay. It's very, very finicky work, folks. If you're not happy, just keep puttering around until you are happy. Remember, you want a clean line, flush on the front. I'm going to use one more back here. Get rid of my extra cement. Because I want to have a silicone joint there, I don't want to have a cement in the way. The only other thing I'm going to do different here, I'm going to move these over. Take a little bit of green painter's tape. I'm going to tape that edge back, okay? And of course, we all know that tomorrow when I pull this out, The cement will still not be cured, so I'll be able to clean it up and polish it and buff it. Everything will look really nice. All right, now we gotta do the side. So first I gotta cut the plastic. I'm gonna go from the top of the plastic edge to the bottom of the plastic edge and cut it on my saw. In case you're wondering, watching this video, hey, why is the cement white all of a sudden? We are also doing the tub resurfacing video, changing out the fixture, doing remodel on that as well. And in that situation, I need to tile from the top down from my laser line because my old farmhouse is all over the place. So while I had Max here filming, we're just using the balance of that cement. I prefer working with this. It is $25 a bag more than the basic thin set that you can use. Whoops. But hey, since we're filming, I don't want to throw it in the garbage. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications so you can watch the rest of this bathroom renovation series. We'll also put a link in the video description for the playlist so that you can start from the beginning on this. I'm just going to back butter this a little bit, make sure I get better adhesion. So now I'm going to set the plastic in. I got to get this grout line perfect. I'm going to do that for the rest of the day 1,000 times, I think. But I'm just going to use this wedge to make this gap perfect here. Okay. Okay, back butter. You want to use something here at every turn to guarantee your grout lines so that you have something that can be filled. Something that can be filled with grout is always more valuable than something that's tile on tile. Okay, there's no room for expansion and contraction, tile on tile. That joint is perfect. We'll just tape that off. Let's get this built out from the wedge. Okay, don't touch. Now we're gonna leave this a full probably 24 hours. There's a lot of extra cement in here. We wanna make sure everything's bonded really strongly before we fool around. There is a little extra cement squeezing out over here because when I press that corner in. Other than that, I think we can all agree this is set up for perfection. Beautiful. Remember, the key to doing any tile work is always have intersecting grout lines. If you have a grain, have the grain going the right way. I could have cheated and did a 4-inch piece going right from the bottom to the top, one piece, nice and easy, but it looked like garbage. Trust me. Don't go doing things like that. Make sure every grout line on a full set of tile is going to be in anything you do, okay? You don't want to just cheat. If this stone was big enough, I could put one piece in the back. That would look ugly because there's a grout line. Make it consistent. That's all you got to do. That's really the rule of tile. And then be happy with every stone you set. If you're not happy, back it up and fix what you did wrong before you move forward because you can't change it later. All right, here we go, guys. Let's get rid of my tape and have a look at this. Right on. Right on. Oh, that's awesome. All right, so this has been a very long video. What we decided to do is make this a 2-part series because we don't want to just skip through anything and miss out on it for you, okay? So part 2, we're going to take care of how to remove the clips, doing the grout work, putting in the fixtures, the silicone work, and the tile silicone-based sealant that looks like grout, all right? We're going to go through all these products. Again, everything I'm getting, I'm buying from the Home Depot. I'm using products in the next video I've never used before. So this will be interesting. I've never worked with the polyblend grout. I have no idea what to expect, so we're gonna follow the instructions. It's gonna be like I'm your guinea pig, right? In that video, I'm your guinea pig. Looking forward to that. Now, if you aren't following along from the very beginning and you're looking at this video for the very first time, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, give us a thumbs up, and click the link up here, okay? And you can watch this entire remodeling series from the very beginning. It's a 4-piece bathroom in an 1880 farmhouse. We're updating everything. And these projects are things that we think you can do it as a homeowner too. Cheers till next time.